Hi, guys. I understand that some of the recording did not make it to the YouTube video. So I wanted to upload a, another video for you in order to make sure that you get all of the information. So here is attempt number 2 at the age of explorations, the explorers that made um, the discovery, so to speak, of the New World possible. In talking about the first peoples of North America, we would be remiss to not talk about the European explorers that made colonization happen. And um, we need to talk about the effects that exploration had on the first peoples of North America, um, and the consequences, both positive and negative, both intentional and unintentional. And those interactions between the Native Americans and the European settlers and explorers um, would forever change history and had consequences that are still being felt today. So we need to talk about that and how they started and what made the Europeans set off from the safety of the European continent and make their way across the Atlantic Ocean to what was essentially a land that they didn't even know was there. So put on your thinking caps and just start out and let's get down to it. Well, technology is great when it works. So imagine, if you will, a life without spaghetti. Can you imagine a life without spaghetti? I think it is such an Americanized food now that it's such a staple in so many households that it would be hard to imagine a life without spaghetti at this point. Not only can we not imagine a life without spaghetti, can you imagine a life without spaghetti sauce? Well, can you imagine a life without pizza? Well, what about a life without ketchup or french fries? What about peanuts or to seeing anybody smoke tobacco? What about chocolate? Well, these are all items that Europeans never knew existed. Today, the Italians are known for many of their tomato-based dishes. The Swiss are known for their chocolates, but before 1492, they had never seen a tomato plant or a cacao plant, which is where chocolate comes from. Tomatoes, potatoes, tobacco, corn, peanuts, squash, chocolate, peppers, pineapples, avocados, pumpkins, peppers, and certain beans all didn't exist to Europeans until this guy came along, Christopher Columbus. As legend has it, Columbus believed the earth was round while everyone else in Europe believed it was flat. As he sailed west across the Atlantic Ocean, his crew nearly mutinied, thinking that they would fall off the edge of the earth. Just then, as the story goes, the crew spotted land. Columbus had discovered America, the first European to touch the New World. But this legend is wrong. Well, how was it wrong? Renaissance scholars of Columbus's day already knew, thanks to the Greek and Arab scientists, that the earth was a sphere. They had the proof. And we already know that the Native Americans were on the New World land and what is now the North American continent because they had migrated there thanks to the Bering Land Bridge. And the Norsemen, led by Leif Erikson, had landed and had briefly settled on what is now Newfoundland, Canada, about 500 years before Columbus's journey. So how did the legend of Christopher Columbus become so wrong? And what is the truth? Well, two truths are evident. One, he was an experienced navigator who took a highly dangerous voyage into unknown waters. Others had tried and were never seen again. And the second truth, he did change history. Europeans had not been completely isolated from the rest of the world before the 1400s. Beginning around 1100, European crusaders battled Muslims for control of the Holy Lands in Southwest Asia. In 1275, the Italian trader Marco Polo reached the court of Kublai Khan in China. For the most part, however, Europeans had neither the interest nor the ability to explore foreign lands. That changed by the early 1400s. But why did Europeans seek a new route to the Indies and Asia? Well, for one, it was for this. See those two pictures on the screen? This was as valuable as gold. Ancient Romans paid as much as $125 in today's value for just 12 ounces of this. Anyone guess what it is? That's right. It's ground black pepper, worth its weight in gold. During the Middle Ages, the pepper in your local supermarket could have paid a year's rent. By the late 1400s, the desire to share in the rich spice trade of the East spurred Europeans to explore the oceans. Other valuable spices were cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. People used spices in many ways: to preserve food, to add flavor, to dried meat and salted meat, and to make medicines and perfumes. Through overseas exploration, merchants and traders hoped ultimately to benefit from what had already become a profitable business in Europe, the trade of spices and other luxury goods from Asia. Because demand for these goods was greater than the supply, merchants could charge high prices and thus make great profits. There were several land routes Europeans could take, but they were all controlled by Muslim and Italian merchants. They would also have to go through mountains and desert. One goal was to get to the Indies. They were nicknamed the Spice Islands. This meant finding a sea route directly to Asia. Now Europeans were able to make the leap into exploring the seas because of new technology. The spread of Christianity. The desire to spread Christianity also motivated Europeans to explore. The Crusades had left Europeans with a taste for spices, but also with feelings of hostility between Christians and Muslims. European countries believed that they had a sacred duty not only to continue fighting Muslims, but also to convert non-Christians throughout the world. Europeans hoped to obtain popular goods directly from the peoples of Asia. They also hoped to Christianize them. Bartholomew Diaz An early Portuguese explorer explained his motives: to serve God and His Majesty, to give light to those who were in darkness, and to grow rich as all men desire to do. Some new technology also helped explorers along the way. Cartographers were map makers. They created more accurate maps and sea charts. The ability to do so was with the help of the astrolabe. This allowed them to determine their latitude while at sea. Better charts. The, the astrolabe was originally designed by the Greeks and was later perfected by the Arabs. The Portuguese, the Portuguese explore Africa. Portugal took the lead in overseas exploration in port due to strong government support. The son of Portugal's king, Prince Henry, funded all ports of exploration. Henry's dreams of overseas exploration began in 1415 when he helped conquer a Muslim city in North Africa. There he found stores filled with pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and other spices. In addition, they encountered large supplies of gold, silver, and jewels. He returned to Portugal determined to reach the source of these treasures in, in the East. The prince also wished to spread the Christian faith. In 1419, he founded a navigation school on the southwestern coast of Portugal. Map makers, instrument makers, shipbuilders, scientists, and sea captains gathered there to perfect their trade. Within several years, Portuguese ships began sailing down the western coast of Africa. By the time Henry died in 1460, the Portuguese had established a series of trading posts along the western coast of Africa. Um, along Western Africa shores. There they traded Africans for such profitable items as gold and ivory. Eventually, they traded for African captives to be used as slaves. Having established their presence along the African coast, Portuguese explorers would attempt to find a sea route to Asia. Although Prince Henry never actually explored, he became also known as Henry the Navigator for his massive investment in explorations for Portugal. In 1488, Portuguese captain Bartolomeu Diaz ventured far down the coast of Africa until he and his crew reached the tip. As they arrived, a huge storm rose and battered the fleet for days. When the storm ended, Diaz realized his ships had been blown around the tip to the other side. Diaz explored the southeast coast of Africa and then considered sailing to India. However, his crew was exhausted and food supplies were low. As a result, the captain returned home. Diaz's voyage had proved that ships could reach East Asia by sailing around Africa. His voyage took 10 months. With the tip of Africa finally rounded, the Portuguese continued pushing east. In 1497, Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama began exploring the East African coast. In 1498, he reached the port of Calicut on the southwestern coast of India. Da Gama and his crew were amazed by the spices, rare silks, and precious gems that filled Calicut's shops. The Portuguese sailors filled their ships with such spices as pepper and cinnamon and returned to Portugal in 1499. Their cargo was worth 60 times the cost of the voyage. Da Gama's remarkable voyage of 27,000 miles had given Portugal a direct sea route to India. The trip back was rough. He lost half of his ships and many of his crew died of scurvy. What is it? It rotted all my gums, which gave out a black, putrid blood. My thighs and lower legs were black and gangrenous. I was forced to use my knife each day to cut into the flesh. In order to release this black and foul blood, I also used my knife on my gums, which were livid and growing over my teeth. Many of our people died of it every day, and for the most part, they died with no aid given them, expiring behind some case or chest. Scurvy is a disease that many sailors suffered while on long voyages because of a lack of vitamin C. But for those who lived, it was well worth it. Da Gama returned and sold his spices at a huge profit and came back a hero for pioneering the route to India. While the Portuguese were establishing trading posts along the west coast of Africa, Spain was jealous. The Spanish kings also wanted a direct sea route to Asia. For years, an Italian sea captain named Christopher Columbus attempted to get financing for his bold plan, finding a route to Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean instead of east. He was looking for the East Indies, which is modern day Indonesia. Sorry about that. They were nicknamed the Spice Islands after being turned down by the Portuguese. Columbus finally was able to get his scheme funded by the King and Queen of Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Columbus' plan made sense, but he made two errors. First, he underestimated the size of the Earth. Second, he had no idea that two continents lay in his path. In 1492, he set sail. Technology is great when it works. Columbus greatly miscalculated the circumference of the Earth by some 7,000 miles. His ships had not supplied enough food or water for the trip. He did not reveal to his crew how far they had actually traveled. In October of that year, Columbus reached an island in the Caribbean. He thought that he had reached the East Indies, the Spice Islands, hence the natives who lived there were called Indians. Although he hadn't hit his target, his voyage would open the way for European colonization of the Americas, a process that would forever change the world. The Portuguese believed that Columbus had reached Asia. Portugal suspected that Columbus had claimed for Spain lands that Portuguese sailors might have reached first. The rivalry between Spain and Portugal grew more tense. In 1493, Pope Alexander VI stepped in to keep peace between the two nations. He suggested an imaginary line dividing he suggested an imaginary dividing line drawn north to south through the Atlantic Ocean. All lands to the west of the line, known as the line of demarcation, would be Spain's. These lands included most of the Americas. All lands to the east of the line would belong to Portugal. Spain and Portugal signed the Treaty of Tordesillas, in which they agreed to honor the line. Thus, when a Portuguese captain was blown off course as he sailed around Africa, he landed in Brazil. Brazil was claimed for Portugal because it lay east of the demarcation line. Today, most of South America speaks Spanish, but Brazil speaks what? You got it, Portuguese. Like Columbus, Amer excuse me, good grief. Like Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci made 4 trips to the New World. He sailed down the coast of South America, and not until 1507 did the Italian explorer suggest that Columbus had discovered a new world. 1 year after Columbus died, in 1507, a German map maker read Vespucci's accounts and printed the first map showing the New World to be separate from Asia. He named it America after Amerigo Vespucci. Columbus died in 1506, not knowing he had found a new continent. I hope as you went along that you have been filling out your Explorer chart in your INB. If not, go back and fill it out by rewatching the presentation. Have a good day.